Hello, Weil Alumni. I'm Jessica Falk. I'm a partner in our New York office in the complex commercial litigation and IP and media practices. I also participate in the firm's mentoring and diversity initiatives, serving on the leadership panel for the firm's task force on women's engagement and retention, and as co-chair of the firm's summer program committee. I am excited to join you for this edition of the Weil Alumni Interview Series, featuring Alea Mitchell, product counsel at Google. Alea has a long history with Weil, joining us as a paralegal, returning as a summer associate, and ultimately rising to a senior associate in CCL and IP media. She was also especially active in pro bono matters during her time at Weil. As a point of personal privilege, Alea is one of my closest friends from my time at the firm. It is truly an honor to share her story with our Weil alums. Alea, thank you so much for joining us, and it was wonderful seeing you at our recent alumni reunion in New York. To begin, would you give us a view into your role at Google?
It is such an honor to see you again, Jess, and it was great seeing you at the recent event. I am an attorney in Google's legal department, obviously, but in their ads department in particular. I am a product counsel, so a lot of my work involves giving counsel to various teams within the organization on my areas of expertise, which is generally child safety as well as political transparency. So those are my two areas within Google, within the legal department.
What qualities do you see as most advantageous for attorneys with IP litigation experience who might want to join a large tech or media company in today's market?
I think probably the biggest advantage, well, one of the common skill sets that someone working within tech will need to have is obviously being a good attorney. So good lawyering is always going to be great. Litigation attorneys in particular, I think, have an advantage in issue spotting. So there's a lot of issue spotting. There's a lot of anticipating how the law could be interpreted as opposed to how the law currently sits, because tech is always changing. A lot of it has not been decided yet. So a lot of flexibility in terms of looking at the law, seeing how it could be applied, and also anticipating where is it going, and then coming up with a solution that makes sense for your teams.
Super interesting. Could you share lessons or tools that you took from your experience at Weil that have helped you succeed in your present role?
Sure. Well, obviously, I said good lawyering. So you have to be a good lawyer. You have to be able to interpret the law. You have to be able to give your clients a reality check in terms of like, what are the actual risks that are involved in doing what it is that you're proposing to do, versus just saying strict black letter law. And that I do think is extremely important. And that is something that I picked up on at Weil in practicing for a number of years there. Both with Rich Rothman in terms of like going through all of his complicated cases, but then also in working with Ben Marks and with Todd Larson and yourself, we're often presented with questions that don't have a solid answer, especially in tech. And so they're asking us to do the work that a product counsel does, which is anticipate how the law could turn out. What are the risks that are involved? What is it that we think often senators in particular, like who are legislating on the law, are coming up with like ideas on how do you change the internet? What are they going to be thinking? What is their baseline understanding of how tech works? Because tech is very complicated. And then trying to come up with good approaches to how the law exists and how the law will change.
A little bit of
I do think that like we at Weil get questions that they don't have an answer, and you just kind of and I think some of our junior associates in particular are given those questions, and then they spend a lot of time trying to find an answer, and then having to come back to us and say there is no answer, but here are things that seem akin to it, and here's how I anticipate the law could be thought of, and that's ultimately what you're doing as a product counsel.
It's super interesting. And, there's always this situation, oh, I'm sure there's a case on X, and there never is a case on X.
No. I think Rich's cases, in particular, they were about maritime law. A lot of those cases were back in the 1800s. And so it was trying to apply, law that had been written in Old English often, to present day circumstances. And so there's a lot of that.
From your own experience, as well as interactions with your mentors and mentees, how can women attorneys best position themselves for success?
So the one piece of advice is kind of common for everybody. So it is being able to choose a mentor. And sometimes you don't have the option of choosing your own mentor, but it is being able to pick someone who has either a book of business or a case that seems interesting to you, some area that you want to learn, and offering your help to them, and being able to be persistent. So going back and then when you get an opportunity, doing the best work that you can do. Um, I do think that women do that, but they don't present it as their own work, and so often their work is taken or taken for granted, in terms of their contributions to the ultimate package. And so you do have to be very cognizant of, not only are you doing this particular assignment, you did it well, you presented it, but did you actually attach your name to it? Does the partner who's going to receive it know that you were the one that worked on this case, you were the one that was interested in doing this particular assignment, and you're the one that's interested in progressing. So I do think that women, associates of color, others will need to be very, very not aggressive, but just confident in being able to exhibit those qualities to someone who will ultimately be able to do something about it. And that will sometimes be a senior associate who is very much like into finding opportunities for the junior associates. Sometimes that'll be the partner. Other times it'll be other people within the firm itself. But you have to find a way to exhibit the qualities that you bring to the table, in multiple different settings and opportunities.
It's really excellent advice. Alea, you and I both share a passion for pro bono service. Could you share with our alumni some of the pro bono work you did at Weil and give us an overview of the opportunities afforded by Google?
So one of my favorite contacts that I made at the alumni event recently was with Miriam Buell, and I cannot tell you how lucky you are to have her at the firm. And the work that she does is extraordinary. I think I realized that more, like the organization that she had, in terms of like making relationships with outside organizations that need help, and then setting it up for associates and partners to be able to partner on and actually work on, to conclusion. That's so difficult to do when you're in-house, and I didn't realize how difficult it would be, to continue doing pro bono work. So when I was at Weil, I was working on a lot of the Board of Education cases with Jared Friedman, and so doing a number of the cases where you had a student that needed special services, and wasn't receiving them, or hadn't had a fair opportunity to be evaluated. So their documentation was incorrect, or their parents were concerned that they were being left behind, for various reasons, and then getting those services for the student. So either holding the school accountable or going before one of the judges and actually demonstrating that the child needs different services. Those are excellent cases. Jared was great, in terms of guiding me and other attorneys through them. I hope he's still doing them. Um, it is a little bit more difficult to do when you're in house and nobody's actually organizing it for you. So, in particular, doing legal pro bono work. So I find myself now doing non-legal public service. Um, either helping out in the soup kitchens, doing different things throughout the city, to help, especially with in particular with housing and with homelessness in the city. So Google has an extraordinary giving website. So they have built out a website that you can do different volunteer services through them. You can document your time, you can set it up and organize it through that particular website. And even more so, they have dedicated a lot of space for giving. So giving money, making it extremely easy, sometimes too easy. I will admit. I told Miriam the story that I was not really paying attention to how much money I was giving, but I was having so much fun on the site that I wound up setting it up to come out of future paychecks and then not getting paid for about 4 months and not realizing that I had done that. So yeah, hard to not fall into it. But it gives a lot of organizations that would not normally get the same level of attention because it's organized by like topic and it's all throughout the world. It gives those organizations an opportunity to shine and be, I guess, found or identified by people who want to help. Um, and then gives a very easy pipeline for you to be able to apply that help. So, um, yeah, no, I think whatever we're doing, we're attorneys are blessed. Attorneys at the level that we're operating on are very blessed to be able to have both the resourcing as well as, and that means both time and money to be able to dedicate it to it. And so the amount of time and energy that you can put into it, please do. And also please acknowledge and recognize the work that Miriam is doing because it is extraordinary and I miss it.
That's really wonderful. Other than the 4 months not getting paid, but it sounds really wonderful.
Don't do that.
Um,
I don't advise it.
so we both touched on it, but it was really wonderful to see you at our recent alumni reunion, Weil Alumni Reunion. What did you take away from that event?
One, I didn't realize that there were seals until very late in the evening, but it was as with I think all of Wild's events, they are thoughtfully planned and executed, and so there were a number of spaces and different settings that you could sit down and speak with someone or stand up and speak with someone. Um, at one point in the evening, I was sitting on a bench, and Rich Rothman just kind of came over and sat down with me, and we connected there. I of course saw you, and I saw a lot of the younger associates who when I left were junior associates and now have either gone on to something else and they're doing something else with their careers or are at Weil and they're thriving and now they like know what they're doing and know what they're talking about. And it's great to see them. I think that I don't know if this is true for you. I think it will be true for both of us, but I also ran into some younger associates at another Weil event. Um, and it's funny how many careers like we have individually touched simply by doing the summer program stuff or by doing interviewing. And they remember it. They're very, very like thankful or like they're like, oh my God, I met you at this event and I don't remember it. But like it's extraordinary to like see them again after they have been practicing and come into their own really in terms of what they're doing. And I'm glad that they're being given opportunities and so forth. And so those events, the alumni events, give you a chance to touch base with people who've touched your own career, as well as with people whose careers you touched, whether knowingly or unknowingly, and just seeing how well they do, and also in seeing how good Weil is at choosing really good people. I think that that is a common thing throughout the people who are at Weil is that you're choosing really good people and attorneys who will go on and affect the industry in one way or the other.
100%. It was a really impressive and fun gathering. It was nice to see so many faces, so many familiar faces. Um, Alea, thank you again so much for participating in this interview. You continue to make the Weil family very proud, and I am incredibly grateful to call you my friend. Weil alumni, thank you for tuning in, and please be on the lookout for future offerings.